fashion, a luxury heritage brand can be described as a fashion house that has a deep and sometimes even century-long history of providing some of the finest quality of clothing or accessories like handbags to regular consumers, Hollywood stars, and even royalty from all across the globe. A lot of these brands were named after their creator like Gucci or Louis Vuitton, and like every business, they go through tough times. Sometimes so tough that they have to file for bankruptcy or even close for a certain amount of time. This can sometimes be due to the death of the brand owner or creator. In Balmain's case, the creator Pierre passed away after over 30 years of service, and after a series of creative directors with varying levels of success, the brand was staring down the barrel of bankruptcy in 2006. With no other ideas or options left, they turned to one of the most shy and low-key men in fashion who had already proved himself on the big stage. This is the story of how Christophe Decarnin revived Balmain. Born in 1964 in the resort town Les Touquets in North France, Les Touquets was one of the most posh, luxurious destinations in France due to its lively nightlife and attractions like clubs, casinos, hotels, and great restaurants. The attire of the rich tourists of the night of the 60s and 70s arguably could have been the biggest influence for Decarnin's looks and designs in the future. Not much is known about Decarnin's earlier life, but in 1981 he moved to Paris to study at the Esmond private fashion school. After graduating, he spent some years consulting for other brands until being picked up by Paco Rabanne to be the creative director of the brand in 1993. Now his Rabanne look wasn't like the Balmain look we'd come to see in the future, but we do see a lot of early Decarnin signatures forming here, like his knack for evening wear and sleeveless and shoulderless dresses and shirts, a preference for the colors white and black, and the use of the fabric lame. We'll be saying that word a lot in this video. Paco Rabanne's futuristic 60s look was having a resurgence in fashion by the time Decarnin became creative director, and as a result, the brand was experiencing great success. But Decarnin often stayed in the background, shying away from the press, also an early showcasing of what Decarnin was all about. This caused many people to take notice to Rabanne, but not to Decarnin, and by the year 2000 he parted ways with the brand. Later on, we would learn from a conversation for a profile between him and Kathy Horn in 2008 that he was frustrated at Rabanne because he wanted to show that his ideas could be commercial and that he could make an exquisite dress that actually sold more than 10 pieces. But it didn't happen for him while he was there. Despite his success over 7 years as creative director for Rabanne, his next job was as a consultant for the French conglomerate that owned the retail chain Apostrophe. He held this job for 5 years while contemplating leaving the world of fashion altogether. That was until Balmain came calling. Pierre Balmain was like Christian Dior and Hubert de Givenchy, a post-World War II couturier who was more concerned with dressing women in elegant and chic clothing rather than trying to be so fashion-forward. He studied in architecture in 1933 before going to work for Edward Molyneux in 1934 for 5 years after visiting his design studio. Due to World War II, his life took a turn when he served in the French Air Corps and the Pioneer Army Corps, before working under French fashion legend Lucien Lelong alongside Christian Dior. With all this experience, he decided to open up his own eponymous house in 1945. In the years to come, Balmain became one of the most successful French couturiers overseas, especially in America, and had his fair share of big appointments, like dressing Hollywood stars Marlene Dietrich and Katie Hepburn, and even the wardrobe of Queen Sirikit of Thailand for her USA 1960s tour. The house was known for its long bell-shaped skirts and small waists in similar style to Christian Dior's new look, but not as extreme. Balmain believed that dressing was the architecture of movement, and he certainly did incorporate his studies into his design language. After years of designing fabulous and elegant clothes for his clients, Pierre Balmain passed away in 1982 at the age of 68 from liver cancer, and his brand was succeeded by his assistant Eric Mortensen, who pushed the brand's identity and legacy forward for another well-received 8 years. In 1990, he left his position, which was taken up by Hervé Pierre Baudrillard for 3 years, and he focused on haute couture and ready-to-wear. He then left and was replaced by the well-respected Oscar de la Renta in 1993, the same year Decarnin became creative director of Rabanne. Oscar had similar grounds to Balmain, preferring established and elegant styles instead of complication of the dress, and he did what most designers do when they take over a label immediately after the founder. They respect the original DNA and add more modern design elements to it to add an air of newness and youth to it, without straying too far from what was expected. Oscar de la Renta's successful tenure ended in 2002, and this is where things got tricky for the brand. Laurent Mercier took over in November 2002, but due to the controversy of his past, he used to be a drag queen, Along with poor performances, he left in June 2003, followed by Christophe Leberg, who parted ways with the brand in 2006. The brand couldn't get a break. Alain Hivelin, the man who had been running Balmain since 1995 and became a majority shareholder in 2005, already got Decarnin to be on board as a designer in the same year. With the looming threat of bankruptcy and a shortage of ideas, Hivelin made a move that would have been daring and dramatic if Decarnin didn't literally already have 7 years of success as a creative director at a popular and well-respected house already. He persuaded a weary Decarnin to become creative director of Balmain with just 45 days before what would be his debut show, the Fall-Winter 2006 collection on February 26th. Buckle up, man, we're about to get into it. Beforehand, most people expected Decarnin's first collection to be the usual Balmain house style, modernized a bit with a hint of the designer's own language thrown in. This collection was a lot more Decarnin than Pierre, however. Already established Decarnin design elements that would become staples during his time at Balmain, like crystal embellishments, use of lame and brocade, his use of black, white, and gold, long flowy shimmery pants, and evening wear with an impossibly short length and lower than low necklines were present. Lots of the dresses shown have open backs down the center all the way down to just above the coccyx. Some of the shirts shown were translucent, and the heels were of black and golden variation. The main theme for Decarnin's first showing that stuck throughout his entire tenure at the French house was his catering to sensuality instead of the complexity of innovation in fashion that seldom pulls in sales. The clothes were immediately understandable at first glance as sexy evening wear with eye-catching features that made you look desirable and of a higher class and not like a science project. Decarnin's debut is also probably the closest we ever saw his design language sync up with Pierre Balmain's, as he told the press after the show that he did revisit the brand's archives, especially the 40s and 50s era. Even so, these looks were a lot less modest and more conspicuous than the Balmain of old. We'll see Decarnin go on to more rugged and even trashier looks later on in this video, so stay tuned. After relaunching Balmain last season and having his first bit of success on the red carpet, Decarnin took his second swing at things with Spring-Summer 2007. This collection was his first big inclusion of the color olive in pieces like short, embellished, shoulderless and one-shoulder dresses that opened the show, three-quarter pants, evening wear being cinched at the waist with leather belting, and the now classic destroyed Balmain t-shirt. The t-shirt specifically being another showing of Decarnin moving further away from Balmain's legacy and past the point of no return with his new Balmain vision. Open back dresses made a return, and many of them also had golden and silver straps to hold them up, and other metallic inventions that were reminiscent of armor. Decarnin himself said that he was going for an armored look. The main shoe was this type of gladiator-esque pair of heels made of either leather or golden material. We also see classic Decarnin one-shoulder dresses in black and gold iterations. This collection was a strong showing of Decarnin's prowess in glitzy, skimpy, and blinding evening wear, all while further cementing other new house codes, like the reoccurring use of white, silver, gold, black, and olive, and giving us a small taste of the rock and roll and even punk turn that his garments would soon take. The monochromatic Fall-Winter 2007 saw Decarnin experimenting with motion in his work in the introduction of frills into his clubbing attire, and more notably his first showing of low-waisted, flowy flared lame and brocade pants that kicked off a wave of adopters in fashion at the time. We also got a sneak peek of the now trademarked strong shoulders on 2 or 3 pieces here, especially the blazer in look 16. Other than these innovators, the collection further pushed the Balmain-mobile in the direction it was already going, with the regulars making appearances again. Shoes this time were suede platform boots that were sometimes studded. Dresses were again being cinched at the waist, more neck-guarding silver armor was present, more embellishments ensued, establishing the Decarnin look even more as if it was a question at that point. The French and British clientele of Balmain were served once more with delightful additions to their nightlife attire. The old Balmain was long dead and gone, and the rest of the industry were already taking notes and imitating. For Spring-Summer 2008, motion becomes an even more central part of Decarnin's clothes with lots more frills, longer and more modest flowy dresses, and the continuation of the over-the-shoe flare pants seen in the previous collection. He stated before the start of the show to the press that it was a mix of Native American and Indian inspiration, and it's also about freedom. Now this direction can be seen through some poncho-like tops and a beaded eagle in the middle of look 17, although to be fairly honest, this cited influence is pretty much not present for the second half of the show in my opinion. It was also by far Decarnin's most colorful outing, with many of the looks in the first half being pink, purple, and violet. There were a few blinged out vests, dresses continued to be shoulderless, and Decarnin's taste for embellishments, lame, and brocade continued to show as we got inklings of his future highly influential military chic style with flared pants that billowed out at the calf and a dress that both weren't exactly camouflage, but looks like it if you're looking at the blurry pictures on the Vogue runway app. What's up with that anyway? But by this time, Christophe Decarnin had managed to do the same feat as Tom Ford did in the mid to late 90s. He capitalized on sex and sexiness in fashion, and as big as it already was, everything was just getting started for Balmain. One thing Decarnin has managed to do throughout most of his Balmain tenure is keep it fresh while not being too out there. The Fall-Winter 2008 collection kept that theme going. The first looks were red hot with lightning bolt embellishments, a red lame shouldered shirt with leather skinnies to match, and a silver shirt with a black and red skirt. Boots of choice for this collection were moccasin fringed booties, which were so popular after they came out. Stylists and editors alike were scrambling for these boots as they released. The theme of red continued throughout the collection with more shimmering thunderbolt dresses, red cropped cheetah print pants and dresses, python printed denim, and even tartan making what I believe is only appearance on a Decarnin runway. This makes sense as Decarnin did state backstage before the show that the collection was more hard rock and punk, giving the press a lot to work with as usual. Christophe, thank you so much. Zebra print also had a say on pants and dresses in various fabrics and sizes, and a jacket with patented power shoulders. The industry wouldn't know what hit them when every woman of the night owned one of these narrow-shouldered outerwear pieces, whether a jacket or a blazer. Well, actually, they did know what hit them because everyone copied the hell out of them. Kate Moss reportedly spent the winter of 2008 glued inside her Balmain blazer, according to J.J. Martin of Harper's Bazaar. Elsewhere, this collection was regularly scheduled programming for Decarnin's Balmain, and the mainstays like one-shoulder dresses, shimmering fabrics, and raunchy evening wear were present. His position as a hot topic in fashion was becoming undisputed, and with appearances in Vogue Paris's August and September issues, courtesy of Karine Roitfeld, the then chief editor of the mag, and Emmanuel Alt, one of her assistants who just so happened to be Decarnin's longtime friend and stylist, not suspicious at all. It was pure Balmania. Of course, there's a conversation to be had about the incorporation of punk, a real subculture that can be considered the antithesis of everything Decarnin is doing at Balmain, or was doing. I actually do have a video talking about this previously on my channel, cough cough, and it is most definitely tone deaf, not to be a stickler. But in Decarnin's case, inspiration comes as it is, and ignorance is bliss. And money. Lots and lots of money. A pair of jeans on average costed $1,400, a beaded jacket cost $15,000, and according to Kathy Horan, a motorcycle jacket with absolutely no embellishments or decorations or anything would cost $7,000. Ripped shirts for thousands of euros did eventually raise some backlash for anyone who had a problem with it, which was a lot of people, as this was seen as especially insensitive due to the recession of the late 2000s. But the reality is that the type of clientele that Balmain attracted at the time were the ones that probably weren't too affected by this ordeal. So they kept buying, and Decarnin kept doing his thing. But one thing he didn't do for once was keep quiet. The usual shy and silent man did have a retort for these grievances. Well, it's like a tour. A lot of things are hand-finished. Manual labor like this in fashion should most definitely always fetch a higher than usual price point, and the clothes that he was making were simply never gonna be anywhere near regular priced. But when Decarnin has also said on record that he wants his clothes to be exclusive but not too exclusive, you can't help but question what he's really playing at. Spring-Summer 2009 can be considered a very important collection during Decarnin's tenure if we considered what signature pieces and design elements were introduced this season. The show began with the debut of one of his most famous pieces, the Michael Jackson and military-inspired drummer boy jacket that retailed for upwards of 11,000 euros according to a random blog post from 2009 that I found. This jacket, along with most of the collection, was embellishments galore, all over the huge plackets and lining the pointy and powerful shoulders, which are now fully being rolled out. Few other military jackets were paired with the now infamous Balmain biker jeans that debuted in bleached blue and black iterations. Other pointed shoulder blazers in various colors were present, with the usual skinny jeans and bedazzled strap heels. The usual short club dresses and tutu dresses alike were swathed and wrapped with bands of bling, and some also had chainmail armor-like detailing to complete the classic Decarnin look. This collection sent the industry and celebrities alike in an absolute frenzy. The pointed shoulder jackets and dresses joined the list of some of Decarnin's most coveted and copied inventions, and were seen on the likes of Kate Moss, Victoria Beckham, Rihanna, and Beyonce as early as 6 months after the show. By this time in December, according to Alan Hivelin, the CEO of Balmain, their sales have nearly doubled every single season since Decarnin's debut in 2006, and he expected the total sales to be 28 million in 2009. There were no signs of them slowing down. As for the biker jeans, according to a story told to Jason Lee for an interview with Hollywood Unlocked, the person responsible by these jeans even existing is none other than Kanye West. And this story is courtesy of Ye himself, and it goes like this. Sometime in the late 2000s, presumably before this collection, if his story checks out, Ye was in a Balmain store in Paris getting blown away by the store offering. In his words, the drip was too crazy. He started shouting out, "Where's Christophe? Where's Christophe?" Luckily, Christophe was actually there for some reason. Ye then told him that he needed a pair of custom Balmains, and Christophe made him a custom red pair that he wore during the 2011 NBA All-Star Game halftime performance with Rihanna. Lil Wayne asked him where he got those jeans from and was then seen in a pair a month later. And that, according to Ye, is when the whole biker jean craze started. But if you're really sharp on your Ye knowledge, you know that both Ye and I missed out a very important night, more so a very important moment in this entire journey. Yeah, that night. This picture still doesn't ring a bell? How about now? Okay, so listen. That moment was on September 13, 2009 at the VMAs. Balmain Spring Summer 2009, where the biker jeans debuted on the runway, was September 27, 2008. So unless Ye had a pair of biker jeans other than the red ones he wore to the All-Star game for over a year before the biker jean debut show, then his claim of being the man that they made the biker jeans for does not check out, unfortunately. However, what does check out is the fact that Ye was the man that made the biker jeans go into men and women's celebrity denim rotation. Speaking of men wearing Balmain, Decarnin debuted his first menswear collection in January 2009, and it's not easy for any designer to cross the invisible gender border in the fashion world where they began on one side, but he most definitely pulled it off. Kanye was of course a big fan of it, and he especially loved their outerwear. His biker jeans got adopted as a menswear staple over time, and they lasted a long time until society decided they were burnt out. They did stick around for quite some time though, and Balmain still makes many different iterations of them to this day along with other brands like Amiri, even though they print the design on mainly. Not sure why, maybe that's like a mass production thing, but I hate that. By the time he showed his fall 2009 collection in March, Decarnin was doing much of the heavy lifting in the fashion industry as well as the fast fashion industry in terms of showing everyone what they should be making. This show was another routine of just about everything Balmain was up until that point. And honestly, there isn't that much new to be mentioned other than the rogue color of the outing being blue, and the power shoulders making its way onto more jackets, blazers, dresses, and even a long sleeve shirt. Embellishments? Check. Skinny jeans? Check. Sexy short bedazzled dresses and shorts? Check. Low necklines and no necklines? Check. Decarnin still taking a bow after every show? For now, check. This collection may have kept the wheels turning for everyone involved with Balmain, from copiers to consumers, but they might not have realized at the time that Decarnin's women of the night were starting to get old. For the people who raised their pitchforks against Decarnin for the nature of his offerings during a worldwide recession, Spring-Summer 2010 must have set their heads on fire like anger from inside out. This show provided the strongest showing of the military chic style that he originally popularized in the industry some seasons earlier. Dresses and shirts that retailed for €945 had holes of various different shapes and sizes. Strong epauletted shoulders on blazers, jackets, dresses, and long sleeve shirts, along with olive and gold being prevalent, really pushed this theme forward. Evening wear dresses turned into silver and gold armor. The usual outerwear came either decorated with badges of honor or in army fatigue colors or materials. Golden patchwork pieces, torn loincloth-like skirts, ripped and bleached skinny denim, and combat heels in leather and suede showed a version of the Carnin's girl who can do both. Infamous bullet ornaments that currently go for thousands of dollars on the resale market were included around the hips and waist of the models. And as far as the cut and silhouette that the Decarnin became known for, it was all there. This is my personal favorite collection from Decarnin, and looks 9, 10, and 24 take the cake for my favorite Decarnin looks ever. The menswear show this season was not really eye-catching. It's what you would expect of the Balmain man at the time, based off of the lookbook pictures I found on thefashionspot.com. I mainly saw leather jackets and biker jeans and shirts with the regular Balmain cut, but for men. The simplicity of it is, however, akin to Decarnin's Balmain, as he refers to his men's collections as wardrobes, and his clothes are so loved because of how easily understandable they are. A collection this glitzy and pricey, of course, only fueled the flames of the insensitivity comments Decarnin got during this time. But they also fed the sales of the company even more, as the European elite couldn't get enough. In my eyes, this show was the peak of Decarnin's entire career. Sales and publicity couldn't get any better. Countless fashion companies high and fast ate from the crumbs he left behind, and by this time there was no doubt that he did something not many designers can boast that they have done. He successfully revived the Sleeping Beauty. As if Decarnin actually felt some type of guilt from last season's oxymoronic display, Fall Winter 2010 took a much classier route. If last season was peak military chic, this outing was pure baroque and roll. Epaulette jackets and destroyed denim jeans were replaced with smart pantsuits in lame and brocade. This collection was also a shameless display of gold, just gold everywhere. Fully golden blazers, fully golden lame dresses, golden biker and sequin pants, a golden floor-length dress, golden brocade pattern pieces. It's as if Decarnin was sick of it and used this collection to get rid of the rest that Balmain had. As a result, this collection was up there with the most expensive he has ever produced. A few cheetah print, fur, and leather pieces made up the majority of the other half of the show that wasn't blinding. If the Decarnin girl wasn't comfortable wearing the tattered and patchwork garments of the previous collection, he made sure to draw them back in with this one. The menswear collection for this season was again nowhere near as memorable as the counterpart. Just more pieces that exist in Decarnin's own wardrobe. Despite how long Decarnin proved the one-trick pony critics wrong, just as Sarah Moore of Vogue Runway pointed out in her review of the show, the pointy shoulder code was starting to get tired due to factors like the rampant copying it was experiencing across the entire fashion landscape, and women's styles simply changing and consumer fatigue was starting to set in. They complained about the same old things constantly making a return, and the change in materials and look couldn't trump the reuse of silhouettes and excessive sparkle. The shine on shoulders weren't cutting it anymore, and Decarnin had to figure something out before Balmania came to an end. And the route he took was an interesting one to say the least. One good look at Spring-Summer 2011 and one could immediately notice the lack of the gross displays people grew to associate with Decarnin's Balmain. The show bared similarities to Spring-Summer 2010, whereas it was off-kilter to what was previously established, but instead of military chic, it was a bit punk. Destroyed and daringly short skirts that were sometimes held together with safety pins. Decarnin's biker jackets were studded down the shoulders and sleeves. Low neckline distressed shirts and tank tops with variations of the American flag and blood on them. Ripped fishnet stockings and safety pin dresses, all while Sid Vicious played in the background, singing about doing things his way. Decarnin was probably being messy here. This collection could be seen in a multitude of ways. It could be the seemingly most obvious move of Decarnin snapping back at critics and doubling down on his own vision. It could have been a scramble to present a new way to sell trashy clothes for thousands of dollars. It could have been Decarnin genuinely trying to grow his own design language and change the Balmain look, as people have been asking. But the one thing's for sure, it was not a hit. The pressure was really mounting now. Although Decarnin stated backstage after his show that this image of his girl was a look he had always liked, and he keeps pictures of it all over his office, I think the girls were sorely tired of larger-than-life DIY luxury that he should have left in Spring-Summer 2010. And the problem was that they were tired of all the other house signatures he developed as well. So the question was, where on earth was Christophe going to go, and what on earth was he going to do? Things drastically got worse from this point forward. The Balmania illusion seemed to finally be on its way out, with cheaper alternatives finally winning people over as they could no longer rationalize spending thousands of dollars on the same trashy pieces every season when it could be done much easier, much cheaper. The only thing keeping that desire for the prestigious Balmain original ruse was that it was so special. But once that ruse wears off, people are going to start thinking, who in their right mind is going to buy this stuff for this price? As if they weren't just doing it right. But Balmain was losing superstar and socialite clientele to other fresher options due to, again, changing styles and the nature of the fashion wheel simply turning onto the next thing if you can't keep up with the times. One could only imagine how close or how far the suits of the label were to actually axing Christophe from the brand. But he showed us exactly where his head was at with what would prove to be his final pair of collections for Balmain. Fall-Winter 2011 marked the first collection that Emmanuel Alt, Christophe's longtime stylist as well as one of the lieutenants of the chief editor of Vogue, Karine Roitfeld, was not doing the styling for a Balmain collection under Decarnin's name. This was because Karine Roitfeld left her position and Emmanuel was naturally promoted. Now, not only was this a big blow towards the actual presentation of the clothes on a runway, but it also marked an end to the practically free press Decarnin would get in Vogue issues as both Roitfeld and Alt were champions of his. Roitfeld was no longer there to push him, and due to Alt's new position, she could no longer do the freelance styling she did for him, nor could she plaster him all over the magazine, as she was a former co-worker of his, and that's basically insider trading, not a very good look. The announcement of Emmanuel's promotion was made on January 7th, leaving him with almost 2 months to employ a replacement. But to call his new stylist a replacement is disrespectful, to be honest. He employed the renowned Melanie Ward as his new stylist. Melanie Ward was well known for her work as Helmut Lang's stylist in the 1990s, and some work that she did with Harper's Bazaar. Her profile suggested that perhaps Decarnin's imagery would finally tone down a bit due to Lang's known minimalistic look, but that was far from the case. And a lot of it most certainly did tone down, but a lot of it could also be seen as a last hurrah from Decarnin. The most plain and refreshing Balmain looks the world saw in ages were juxtaposed against brazen displays of wealth. It gives Fall Winter 2010 a run for its money. There were dresses with rows upon rows of different assortments of jewels that could certainly fry the mind of a young Victorian era child. Blazers and jackets were outfitted with the same jewels, sometimes with different patterns. There were fully sequined dresses and two-piece sets displaying geometric patterns and some final displays of lame that could make a Decarnin devotee shed a tear. Don't cry because it's over, be happy because it happened. For everybody else, I'm sure it was the opposite. The menswear show for this collection, however, is something that we must talk about. This was really a monumental last effort from Decarnin. The military inspiration was seen through these pieces, but it was more so of like, I want to say this nomadic look of bundling on as much as you can while you have to move. The styling, in my opinion, was miles ahead of the simplicity of the menswear and even womenswear that we have previously seen from Decarnin. Not for every look, of course. Some of them were just, a top, a pair of pants, and a shoe with a scarf. But on the higher end, we see like military like outerwear pieces over a sweater vest that's crossed and tucked in at the belt, and that vest is holding in a flannel underneath. And underneath that flannel is like another shirt. Like the layering was so visually pleasing to me, and it's such a crazy jump from the previous collection. It's almost a bit wild. I'm not gonna go out and say that this was too ahead of its time because no, everybody isn't dressing like this right now, but long story short, when Kanye likes something, he loves it. And if it's clothes, he's gonna wear the hell out of it. And if early 2010s Kanye is wearing it, believe that at some point everybody else is gonna be doing the same thing. Seriously, he loved this Parker from this collection. He was a huge Decarnin fan as we previously learned about. But back to the women's wear. The main talking point of this collection was the ending. Decarnin did not come out at the end to take the usual bow, and the biggest question in fashion ensued. Where the hell is Decarnin? Speculation was that he checked into a mental health hospital as early as January of that year due to poor mental health or a mental breakdown or something along those lines. But Balmain's owners commented that the designer was too tired to attend the show, and that was all. When a designer refuses to take a bow at the end of their show, usually when that happens, unless there was clarification beforehand that they were not going to attend, that type of move sends rumors flying all about and it's a message. And for Decarnin, it was talk of him leaving Balmain. This show was presented on March 2nd, 2011. It was announced on April 6th that after 11 seasons at the French luxury house, Decarnin would step down from his position as creative director of Balmain. The news rang around the industry, and according to Women's Wear Daily, their sources close to the designer says that the speculation about his mental health were overblown, and the main breaking point was the rising tensions and disagreements between Decarnin and CEO of Balmain, Alain Hivelin, in terms of the company's future direction. Such a common case in fashion nowadays. Olivier Roustan was announced as the new creative director of Balmain on April 26, 2011, at the age of 25, and he is still in charge today. And just like that, it was all over. But as shy of the spotlight as he was, you're probably wondering, what about Decarnin? Balmain moved on and Decarnin took some time off from fashion until he joined the new Faith Connection team in around 2012 or so, when the entire previous design team that was there got overhauled by Alexander Allard. Decarnin's involvement wasn't publicly acknowledged by the brand until 2016, and of course they respected Decarnin's wishes to work behind the scenes instead of the spotlight. The brand was not so much a Balmain at all, but some similarities to Decarnin's style were still seen, and there was speculation by keen fans saying that this is where Decarnin went after his Balmain departure for years until it was publicly confirmed. So in the end, it was quite a ride for Decarnin. He's been just about everywhere you could find yourself as a designer in fashion. But what about his Balmain years were so special that made it all work compared to his far less notorious Rabanne era? I think mainly the brand knew who exactly was its clientele and it had the perfect help to capture it. For the sometimes couture levels of pricing that Balmain hit, the clothes were very understandable. What you saw was exactly what you got and you couldn't get it anywhere else. No other designer had ever produced such glamorous but trashy and glitzy clothing, and the only people that could afford it were the ones who were recession proof. So while other brands' figures slumped, Balmain's doubled season after season, and these consumers were sure to never miss a Balmain collection because it would surely be in vogue or on a celebrity every month without fail. It became the uniform used to identify a different class in society. Sure, fakes ran rampant, but a lot of what made Balmain actually sell were the things you couldn't fake. The eye-grabbing gross display of wealth, distinct silhouette, status that came while wearing it. It was nothing short of jet set. But I believe Decarnin's downfall was his brilliance. There are so many designers who have built their worlds slowly over decades like Rick Owens, Jill Sander and Andy Mulemeister, and others who did not change that much every season and you can mostly expect the same from them almost every time. But where Decarnin got the short end of the stick was that his look was too much to begin with. It was always the same type of extravagance every season, just as much as the same silhouettes, colors, and types of garments you could expect. But fashion has showed us over the years that the more understated and non-fussy looks stand the test of time usually, which is why previously mentioned brands like Rick, Jill, and Anne are still active and revered to this day in one way or another. Paired with unavailability to most fashion consumers, the trashy but fabulous Decarnin girl simply got old and the one-trick pony allegations got him good. Another small factor could be the increasing dominance of Phoebe Philo in the women's wear space, shifting what women wanted to wear and slowly pushing Decarnin out, but it's very hard to determine just how much credit we would actually give her in a situation like that. Nevertheless, Decarnin's Balmain revival is among one of the strongest in fashion, and it's a moment that I believe we should not let fall to the wayside. That's kind of why I made this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Please like the video if you did, subscribe for more fashion content, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.